The wind howled outside the rusted hangar in Calgary, a biting 38-degree Fahrenheit chill seeping through the cracked walls as Elon Musk stood beside Jolie, his childhood nanny, now 85 and frail but resolute. The dim light of a flickering lantern cast long shadows across the cavernous space, illuminating a scattering of Joshua Haldeman's initial documents, yellowed papers filled with wild sketches of satellites and cryptic equations. Beside them, Mae Musk, Elon's mother, traced her fingers over her late husband's handwriting, her eyes glistening with a mix of grief and wonder. Clara, Jolie's grandniece, a sharp-eyed 31-year-old who'd flown in from San Francisco, knelt near the center of the hangar, her brow furrowed as she tapped the concrete floor. 54 years ago, Clara murmured, her voice echoing faintly, I was 7. Grandpa Joshua brought me here once. He said something about hiding his dreams where no one would look. She pressed her ear to the ground, then sat up abruptly. There's a hollow spot, right here. Elon crouched beside her, his Tesla jacket brushing the dust as he rapped his knuckles against the floor. A dull thud answered, distinct from the solid clinks around it. You're right, he said, his voice tinged with the same restless curiosity that had driven him to launch rockets into orbit. Jolie, Mae, help me find something to pry this open. Jolie shuffled forward, her trembling hands clutching a worn metal spoon she'd pulled from her coat pocket, a relic of her cafe days. It's not much, but it's sturdy, she said with a faint smile. Mae handed Elon a crowbar she'd found leaning against a stack of crates, her hands steady despite the weight of revisiting her past. Together, they wedged the tools into a hairline crack Clara pointed out, and with a groan of effort, the concrete slab shifted. Beneath it lay a trapdoor, its edges sealed with a rusted lock stamped with the year 1971. Elon's pulse quickened. This is it, he said, glancing at the group. Whatever Dad left behind, it's been waiting for us. He pulled a small multi-tool from his pocket, a habit from his engineering days, and worked the lock until it snapped open with a brittle crack. The trapdoor creaked as he lifted it, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. A stale, metallic scent wafted up, mingling with the cold air. Careful, Mae warned, gripping the lantern tighter. Joshua was always secretive about his projects. He wouldn't leave this unguarded. I'll go first, Elon said, already stepping onto the first stair. The wood groaned under his weight but held. Jolie followed, her steps slow but determined, her breath visible in the frigid air. Mae and Clara brought up the rear, the lantern's glow painting their shadows against the rough walls. The stairs spiraled down 10 feet before opening into a subterranean chamber, a secret laboratory frozen in time. The walls were lined with shelves sagging under the weight of blueprints, glass jars filled with coiled wires, and crude devices that looked like prototypes of something far ahead of their era. In the center stood a workbench cluttered with tools, a half-assembled machine, and a second journal bound in cracked leather. Dust motes danced in the lantern light as Elon approached the journal, flipping it open to a page titled The Starlight Engine. Not just connection, he read aloud, his voice reverberating in the stillness, but power. A limitless stream from the stars themselves. This isn't just about satellites, Dad was trying to harness stellar energy. His eyes skimmed the page, catching phrases like infinite potential and a new dawn for humanity. He looked up at Mae, incredulous. Mom, did you know about this? Mae shook her head, her silver hair catching the light. He talked about big ideas, always did. But this? He kept it buried, even from me. Her voice cracked slightly. Maybe that's why he died that night in 71. He was protecting something. Jolie, leaning against the workbench for support, peered at a sketch in the journal, a cylindrical device with radiating lines, labeled Core Prototype. That looks like something he showed me once, she said softly. Back in Pretoria, when you were little, Elon. He said it was his gift to the future. Clara, meanwhile, had wandered to a corner where a faint hum pulsed through the air. She brushed aside a tarp, revealing a small metal box wired to a tangle of circuits. Guys, come here, she called, her voice tight. This thing's active, listen. The group gathered around as the hum grew into a low-frequency signal, rhythmic and insistent, like a heartbeat buried in static. Elon frowned, pulling out his phone to scan for a signal source, but the screen flickered uselessly. "No reception down here," he muttered. "This isn't natural. Something's been running for decades." "Or someone's been listening," Clara added, her eyes darting to the shadows. "If this lab's been hidden since '71, who's keeping tabs on it?" The air grew heavier, the signal's pulse sinking with their rising unease. Elon knelt beside the box, tracing its wires to a small, glowing cylinder nestled in a cradle of steel, a crude prototype of the Starlight engine. It was no bigger than a coffee can, its surface etched with faint runes that pulsed faintly blue. "This must be it," he said, lifting it carefully. "The core Dad wrote about." As his fingers brushed its surface, the cylinder flared with a brilliant flash, bathing the lab in a blinding white glow. The signal spiked, a sharp whine cutting through the air, and the walls trembled as if the earth itself flinched. Jolie gasped, clutching May's arm, while Clara stumbled back, shielding her eyes. When the light faded, the cylinder dimmed to a soft shimmer, but the signal persisted, louder now, echoing beyond the lab. "What the hell was that?" Clara demanded, her voice shaking. Elon stared at the device, his mind racing. "It's alive," he said. "And I think we just woke it up." Above them, the hangar floor creaked, dust sifting down from the ceiling. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, thudded overhead. May's face paled. "Someone's here," she whispered. "We're not alone." Elon slipped the cylinder into his jacket, motioning for the group to retreat to the stairs. "We need to get out, now," he said, his tone clipped. But before they could move, a shadow loomed at the trapdoor's entrance, a tall figure in a dark coat, flanked by two others. The leader stepped into the light, revealing a weathered face framed by graying hair. He carried an air of authority, his eyes cold and calculating. "Victor Grayson," he introduced himself, his voice gravelly. "Grandson of Pete Grayson, Joshua's old mechanic. You've got something that belongs to us, Musk." Elon squared his shoulders, shielding Jolie and May. "This is my father's work," he shot back. "You've got no claim here." Victor smirked, descending the stairs with a predator's grace. "The Starlight Coalition disagrees. That engine's power could reshape the world, and Joshua stole it from us 54 years ago. We've been waiting for someone to dig it up." He nodded at the cylinder peeking from Elon's jacket. "Hand it over, and no one gets hurt." Jolie stepped forward, her frail frame trembling but her voice steady. "You don't know what you're chasing, boy," she said. "Joshua didn't steal anything, he built it, dreamed it. I was there when he sketched it out, long before you were born." Victor's eyes narrowed, but he didn't argue. Instead, he gestured to his men, who fanned out, blocking the stairs. "Last chance," he said. "The Coalition's been tracking that signal since the crash. You lit it up, and now we're here. Give it to me, or we take it." Elon's mind raced, calculating odds. 4 against 3, trapped underground, with a device he barely understood. But he saw the fear in Jolie's eyes, the resolve in May's, and the fire in Clara's. They weren't backing down. Neither would he. "Clara," he said under his breath, "distract them. Mom, Jolie, get to the journal." Clara nodded, stepping forward with a bravado she didn't entirely feel. "Hey, Victor," she called, her tone sharp. "If this coalition's so big, why is it just you three? What, no budget for a real team?" Victor's gaze flicked to her, annoyed. "You're stalling," he growled, but it bought enough time. May and Jolie slipped to the workbench, flipping through the journal as Elon edged toward the cylinder's cradle, searching for a switch or lever, anything to shift the odds. Jolie's fingers paused on a page, her lips moving silently as she read. Elon, she hissed, it's in Spanish, a story I told you when you were 6. The star that guides the lost. It's a code. Before she could finish, Victor lunged, grabbing Clara's arm and twisting it behind her. She yelped, but Elon was already moving, slamming the crowbar into the cradle's base. A low rumble shook the lab, and the signal spiked again, deafening now. The shelves rattled, jars crashing to the floor, and Victor staggered, releasing Clara. Get out! Elon shouted, shoving the group toward the stairs. May clutched the journal, Jolie leaning on Clara as they climbed. Victor roared something unintelligible, his men scrambling after them, but the lab's machinery whirred to life, lights flickering erratically. The cylinder in Elon's jacket pulsed, warm against his chest. They burst into the hangar, the cold night air hitting them like a slap. The signal followed, a beacon cutting through the darkness, and as they stumbled toward the jet parked half a mile away, Victor's voice echoed behind them, "You can't run from the coalition. The master knows you've got it." Elon didn't look back. The cylinder's glow seeped through his jacket, a promise and a threat. Whatever Joshua had left behind, it was bigger than they'd imagined, and the chase was just beginning. The night sky above Calgary stretched wide and black, pinpricked with stars that seemed to pulse in time with the faint glow leaking from Elon Musk's jacket. The Starlight engine prototype, a small cylinder no larger than a thermos, thrummed against his chest as he led the group, Jolie, May, and Clara, across the frost-crusted field toward the jet parked half a mile from the hangar. The 38-degree Fahrenheit air bit at their skin, their breaths clouding in frantic bursts as the echo of Victor Grayson's shout lingered behind them, "The master knows you've got it." The words hung like a threat, sharp and heavy, driving their pace despite the ache in their legs. Elon glanced back, his sharp eyes scanning the hangar's silhouette against the horizon. The trapdoor they'd fled through stood open, a black moss spilling faint light from the lab below. Shadows moved within, Victor and his 2 men, no doubt regrouping. "We've got a head start," he said, his voice low but firm. "But not much. Keep moving." Jolie, her 85-year-old frame hunched against the cold, leaned on Clara's arm, her steps uneven but determined. "He's not wrong, Elon," she rasped, her voice carrying the weight of decades. "That thing in your pocket, it's alive. Joshua always said it'd call to someone, someday." May, clutching the cracked leather journal they'd snatched from the lab, shot her a look. "You knew about this, Jolie? All those years in Pretoria, and you never said a word?" Jolie's eyes, clouded with age, met May's. "I didn't know everything. Just pieces, stories Joshua told me while I rocked Elon to sleep. He trusted me with dreams, not details. I never thought they'd come chasing us 54 years later." Clara, her breath ragged, tightened her grip on Jolie. "Well, they're here now. And they're not playing around. That Victor guy, he's got a grudge older than I am." The jet loomed ahead, its sleek $70 million frame glinting under the starlight, a beacon of escape. Elon punched a code into the hatch, the door hissing open with a soft whine. "Inside," he ordered, ushering them up the steps. "We'll figure this out in the air. Palo Alto's 2,000 miles south, we can regroup there." The cabin was warm, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside, and the group collapsed into the leather seats as the engines hummed to life. Elon slid the cylinder from his jacket, setting it on the table between them. Its faint blue glow pulsed like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across their faces. "Okay," he said, leaning forward. "Let's see what we're dealing with." He pressed a finger to the cylinder's surface, tracing the etched runes. The glow intensified, and a sharp crackle split the air, a burst of static that morphed into a low-frequency signal, the same one they'd heard in the lab. Then, without warning, the cylinder flared, a brilliant flash erupting from its core. The jet's lights flickered, the cabin plunging into momentary darkness before stabilizing. Outside, a beam of light shot upward from the device, piercing the jet's window and slicing into the night sky like a blade. "What the hell?" Clara started. but her words were drowned by a deafening whine. The signal spiked, a rhythmic pulse that rattled the table, and the cylinder's glow settled into a steady, radiant shimmer. Elon stared at it, his mind racing. "It's transmitting," he said, half to himself. "That flash, it sent something out. A beacon." May's face paled, her hands tightening on the journal. "Joshua wrote about this. The core awakens when touched by intent. He meant it to signal something, or someone." Before they could process it, the jet's comms crackled, the pilot's voice cutting through. "Mr. Musk, we've got company. 3 vehicles just pulled up outside the hangar, armed. They're moving fast." Elon bolted to the window, peering down as the jet taxied toward takeoff. Headlights sliced through the darkness below, 3 black SUVs skidding to a stop near the hangar. Figures spilled out, their silhouettes bristling with rifles. At the center stood Victor Grayson, his coat flapping in the wind as he barked orders. Even from this height, Elon could feel the man's gaze, cold and unrelenting. "They tracked the signal," he muttered, turning back to the group. "We're not clear yet." The jet lurched as it lifted off, the engines roaring against the night. The cylinder's glow dimmed slightly, but the signal persisted, a low hum that set their teeth on edge. Clara rubbed her temples, her voice tight. "If that thing's broadcasting, they'll follow us wherever we go. We need to shut it down." Elon shook his head. "Not until we understand it. This is Dad's legacy, maybe more. We can't just kill it." Jolie, slumped in her seat, straightened slightly, her eyes fixed on the cylinder. "It's not just a machine," she said softly. "It's a promise. Joshua said it'd light the way, for you, Elon. For all of us." The jet leveled out at 30,000 feet, the stars a glittering canopy beyond the windows. For a moment, silence settled over them, broken only by the cylinder's hum. Then the comms crackled again, but this time it wasn't the pilot. A voice, deep, distorted, and unmistakably hostile, filled the cabin. "Musk," it growled, the static warping each syllable. "You've activated what doesn't belong to you. The Starlight Coalition has waited 54 years for this. Return it, or we'll take it, piece by piece." Elon's jaw tightened. "Who is this?" A low chuckle rasped through the speaker. "Victor Grayson. You met me in the dirt. But I'm not alone. The coalition's bigger than you think, older, too. Your father stole the engine's heart, and we've been hunting it since the crash." May leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Joshua didn't steal anything. He built it, his mind, his hands. Who are you to claim it?" Victor's tone hardened. "Ask Pete Grayson, my grandfather. Joshua's mechanic. He was there when the plans were drawn, when the first core sparked. But Joshua cut him out, ran off with the prototype, and left us with nothing. That crash in '71? It wasn't an accident. We made sure he paid." The words hit May like a punch, her breath catching. "You killed him?" "No proof," Victor snapped. "Just justice. The coalition's been watching ever since, waiting for the signal to flare. And now you've lit it up, Musk. You've got no idea what you're holding." Elon's mind spun, piecing together fragments. "If you wanted it so bad, why not dig it up yourselves? 54 years is a long time to wait." Victor laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Because Joshua hid it too well. That lab was a ghost until you stumbled in. The signal's the key, and you just turned it. But here's the thing, the engine's not everything. Find the second key holder, or you'll never see the full picture." The line cut out, leaving a ringing silence. Elon stared at the cylinder, its glow steady now, almost mocking. "Second key holder," he repeated, glancing at the group. "What does that mean?" Jolie's hands trembled as she reached for the journal, flipping to a page she'd marked in the lab. "Here," she said, her voice quavering. Joshua wrote about a partner, Evelyn Carter. A scientist. He said she held the other half of the starlight. Maybe that's who Victor's talking about. May's eyes widened. Evelyn. I remember her. She worked with Joshua in the early days, brilliant, quiet. She disappeared after the crash. I thought she'd just moved on. Clara frowned, crossing her arms. If she's the second key holder, she's got the rest of this thing, whatever it is. But why is Victor so cryptic? He could have just said her name. Because he doesn't know, Elon said, his voice low. He's got fragments, just like us. The coalition's chasing shadows, they don't have the full story. The jet hummed southward, the cylinders signal a constant undercurrent. Elon leaned back, his mind racing through possibilities. The Starlight engine wasn't just a power source, it was a puzzle, split across time and people. Joshua's death, Evelyn's vanishing, the coalition's vendetta, it all tied back to this glowing core. But Victor's warning gnawed at him. If they didn't find Evelyn, or whatever she held, the coalition wouldn't stop. Hours later, the jet touched down in Palo Alto under a 60-degree Fahrenheit night sky, the air soft and warm compared to Calgary's bite. The 47-acre SpaceX estate sprawled before them, its gardens bathed in starlight. Lucia, Jolie's grandniece and a SpaceX engineer, met them at the hangar, her eyes widening as she spotted the cylinder. "You brought a live one," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "That beam, it hit our sensors 2,000 miles away. What is it?" "Trouble," Elon replied, handing it to her. "And a legacy. We need to crack it open, safely. Victor Grayson's coming, and he's not alone." Lucia nodded, already pulling out a tablet to scan the device. "I'll get a team on it. But if it's signaling, we're on borrowed time." Jolie stood in the garden, her frail figure silhouetted against the stars. The cylinder's glow reflected in her eyes, a quiet strength rekindled after $25,000 worth of a hard-lived life. "Joshua's dream," she murmured. "It's waking up. And so are we." Elon joined her, the journal tucked under his arm. "We'll find Evelyn," he said. "And we'll finish what Dad started. Whatever it takes." But as they spoke, the cylinder pulsed again, a new signal crackling through Lucia's tablet. Coordinates flashed on the screen: Alaska, 1,500 miles north, and a faint voice broke through the static: "Joshua, I kept it, Evelyn." The group froze, the night suddenly electric. The second key holder was out there, alive, and the chase was far from over.